You recall last week, well, I think all of you were on last week with me, except Stephen. Were you on, Joan, last week? No. Okay, so Joan and Stephen. This is what happened at the split of 1054, right here. Okay, this is the split. The Orthodox, then the Holy Catholic Church, that's the one church, Holy Catholic, like we say in our creed, split into an Orthodox church, Eastern Orthodox, and a Roman Catholic. And, the name Greek Orthodox took on at that point too. And you see that it just continued, and we're at this point in the history now, right here, okay? We're 200 years past the split, 150 years to be a little more accurate. But the point here is that we're going to go into a very difficult time now. It's a slow destruction. We're going to slowly lose the Byzantine Empire. And the Roman Empire is going to be plagued with all, variants of the faith. That's what these are showing, all the different variations of the faith that would develop. So, ironically, it was the from this point on, which actually eventually would preserve the church, our church. And I'll explain that next week better. Okay, I just wanted to catch everybody up to where we are. And let me see, here's something to keep in mind now. When the split happened, all of this went to the Roman side, the Roman Catholic, Western part of the empire. Okay, and that's where you have Charlemagne and all his descendants taking rule over there. And if you look over here in the east, what do you see? You see Russia, which we know is Orthodox, and we see all of our friends that are in our church, all their families from Palestine, Nazareth, all this whole area. But as far as strength-wise, the Roman Empire, the Roman side, it really picked up the majority of strength, okay? And especially this little area here, Venice, Italy, right there. Venice is the hot spot that we're going to be talking about today. They're very integral in this Fourth Crusade. But last week, at the end of last week, Mr. Chadwick asked me a question. If Pope Leo died during the time that, if you remember, Cardinal Humbert went up to Hagia Sophia, went up to Michael Cerullius, who was the emperor, and he was doing the service, and he excommunicated Michael Cerullius. And we were saying that it legitimately, it didn't happen because the Pope died. And once the Pope died, these three gentlemen, Humbert, and he had an archbishop with him and another bishop, they were his legates. And, once he died, their authority is gone. So they could not issue the bull of excommunication. All right. So then I made the comment then, and it's true that, it was partially true, that at that point, Michael Cerullius did a tit for tat and excommunicated, and I did say the Pope Leo. But as Mr. Chadwick pointed out, Pope Leo was dead. And that's the fact that I made, and that was true. I researched it again a little further, and he had died at that point. So that legate there, Cardinal Humbert, had no authority. And then Mr. Chadwick's question was, well, then who did Michael, the emperor, Michael Cerullius, excommunicate? The dead Pope? And my answer at that time was, well, it was a tit for tat. So he excommunicated the Pope. And as it says here, I looked it up, I researched a little bit, and it says, still the church split along, Pope Leo died and Cerullius, the emperor, excommunication only applied to the legates. So when Cerullius issued his excommunication, that excommunicated Cardinal Humbert and the archbishop that was with him and the bishop that was with him. Okay, so what I'm pointing out here is there never was an official announcement of the two areas splitting into separate areas. The church split, that was like a starting point, all right? The church actually did continue to split over doctrinal, theological, linguistic, political, and geographical lines. And the fundamental breach has never been healed, okay? So I wanted to clarify that from last week. And I've got one housekeeping note here. I just want to make sure everybody knows. Next Tuesday, Father Nektarios is going to start his summer book study. It'll be a 5-week study, I think, all the weeks, all Tuesdays of July. I don't know the topic yet. I don't know what book he selected, but we'll find out. As soon as if we find out before next Tuesday, we'll send the information out to you. But Father Nektarios' book studies are always worth being a part of and very enjoyable. So let's move on now. These 3 events that I'm going to be focusing on, last week's schism, this week, Fourth Crusade, and next week, the fall, each one of them builds up to the fall. Each one of those had an important role. The schism, in particularly, the first week, the schism, hurt it politically. This week, the attack of the Crusaders is going to hurt the empire financially, and mainly financially is what it's going to do, and I guess it's to a certain degree politically, and maybe even geographically. And then next week we'll fill it up with the fall, which is one of my favorite presentations. Not that it's because it's the fall, but I just find it so fascinating, the story of it. Somebody should make a movie out of it because it's incredible. So let me introduce you to some of the main principles today. Well, let me just point this out. In between the Fourth Crusade, 1204, and the schism, 1053, was a battle here. Manzikert. Here's Manzikert right over here. It's in Turkey, see? So part of the Ankara area. That battle, depending on what you read, further solidified the weakness of the Byzantine Empire. The split, like I said, financially hurt the Byzantine Empire, and politically and militarily. When there's no finances, they couldn't support the army well. And yet that whole area was in turmoil. A lot of turmoil here. You had our church being split. You had the attack by the Arab the Muslims down in Jerusalem. Okay, and then you had the Ottoman Empire developing, and Manzikert, it was a big defeat to the Byzantine Empire. They had just started to rebuild themselves after the schism, and they got involved in this battle at Manzikert, and it really set them back. It set them back militarily, and it gave they actually captured the emperor. They arrested the emperor. I've forgotten his name. What is it here? I've forgotten the name. I'll run across it here probably shortly. But it's the first time that an emperor of the Byzantine Empire was captured. Oh, here he is. His name's right on here. Constantine, here it is. Constantine Monomachos. He was one of the worst military men that was involved with the Byzantine Empire. And he took over as the emperor at the worst time. When it needed a strong leader, he was an extremely weak leader. And he should never have gotten involved with Manzikert, but he did. And, they captured him. And but it's funny, the Sultan then questioned the emperor and said, if you captured me, what would you do with me? And Constantine said, he listed a couple things. One of them was that I'd have you executed. And so the Sultan said, well, I'm going to do worse. I'm going to free you and all your people and let you go back home and face your own people. And they did. They freed him. And when he went back, the people revolted against him because he had lost the battle and he was so weak, and they executed him. So he had some bad days there. But he was just an untimely person to be in the leadership after 1054. There were others too, but he tried to expand the Byzantine Empire, and he militarily wasn't capable of doing that. And it cost him his life. And it also set seeds to the Ottoman Empire that the Byzantine Empire could be defeated in battle. Okay, and so it encouraged them. And their next battle will come here in Constantinople, and that's the one we'll talk about next week. In this discussion, the final assault was on April 12th, 1204. It actually started in October July. I think it was July 17th of 1203. And I just want to read what a historian wrote about it. Just a short line here. The act was of barbarity and Western arrogance. It was not approved by the Pope and should not have ever happened, but it did happen, unfortunately. Okay, so we got Pope Innocent and Pope the second and the third, and we're concentrating on the third right now. That's his picture there, and we have intervention by forces to the Jerusalem. And this Pope wanted to, protect the Christians in Jerusalem. So he organized this Fourth Crusade to go to Jerusalem and, fight the Muslims there. They were attacking they had taken the cross from the Church of the Resurrection. And he appointed a gentleman by the name down here of Boniface Montferrat as the leader. He was not that good of a military man. Let me get him up here. But the one they went to who really took over is this gentleman here, Enrico Dandolo. Here's Enrico Dandolo. I don't know how he possibly took over because he was blind and he was 90 years old. He was blinded, and there's no real accurate explanation of how he was blinded. He had there was one that I read said that the emperor, the Byzantine emperor, years ago had blinded him when he was in his 70s for some act, and I couldn't figure out what to find the act that he did. But that's not, you can't go by that because I'm not sure, 100% sure. But I am sure he was blind at the time and couldn't see. How he's going to lead a revolt against the biggest empire in the world at the time. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's the man that was in charge. He's from Venice, Italy. Now, we know that this battle was a political and financial, was motivated politically and financially, and the political and spiritually, since the Pope was involved. Okay. The Pope wanted to organize a group to go down to fight Jerusalem. The problem was finances. Finances were at a premium at that point. The previous Byzantine empires had squandered a lot of the money, a lot of their wealth. And so the Pope turned to the Doge here. The Doge is the head guy in Venice, Italy, Enrico Dandolo, who was extremely wealthy. And he financed the Navy, any naval parts. But Jerusalem's not surrounded by water. I don't know why he would have him finance the Navy. But he got involved. That's how he got involved. And he became a leader of this organization that Pope Innocent was organizing. So we have two leaders, but Boniface and Enrico Dandolo, but he's the main one right here, Dandolo. Okay, then we've got a situation here. These are the emperors at the time: Alexios the second, the third, and the fourth. Alexios the second was the son of Isaac the second. Okay, Isaac the second was removed, and Alexios the second spoke with Dandolo and said, if you send your forces to Constantinople and restore my father to the emperorship, I will give you the money you need to go to Jerusalem and fight the Muslims at Jerusalem. So Dandolo liked that idea, and he organized the troops, to veer from Jerusalem and instead go to Constantinople. Now, when Pope Innocent issued his decree and organized the Fourth Crusade, he stated very clearly it's not to attack any Christian countries or cities. It was to go just to Jerusalem and fight the Muslims in Jerusalem. So Dandolo, making the decision to go to Constantinople, and he reached that decision because, again, they were out of money and they didn't have enough money to get down to Jerusalem. And the Byzantine Empire Constantinople was the wealthiest city of the time. They figured that they would be able to impose themselves there, and especially with the help of Alexios II. And if they put in Isaac back in, they would have favor with the leadership in Constantinople and get the money they need to go fight in Jerusalem. So Alexios II will be executed by the people. He was a very weak leader. He'll be executed before he gets an opportunity to give Dandolo the money he needs. So when Dandolo realized that he was being relieved of the money he thought he was getting, went nuts and decided instead to attack Constantinople and get as much as they could from everybody in Constantinople, all the wealth there. And so they did. They entered Constantinople on April 12th. Actually, I said July 17th of 1203. And it's one of the saddest days in Christian history that the brothers there would attack the city as they did. In fact, Pope Innocent got so upset that he excommunicated Dandolo, Boniface, Alexios, or everybody who was involved in this. That they were excommunicated. But he needed their leadership back because he had to send them down to Jerusalem. Jerusalem was being pounded by the Muslims. So he forgave them after a while. But just a side note here, you see I have John Paul II down here. And I have him down here because when he was Pope, alive, he issued an apology to our patriarch for what the Roman Catholic Church, sponsored, since it was their organization that the Fourth Crusade was organized by. And he issued an apology to them, to the patriarch, and which was kind of nice. All right, this is Alexios, and over here we've got Pope Paul, Pope John, and there's Boniface there accepting the leadership of the battle. Okay. What they did, they went in and to Constantinople, and they were able to enter in because they were considered, our brothers, and so they didn't have to breach the walls. They were permitted entry, and that's when they took, started to attack everything. And they really did a number. They really destroyed. The empire would exist still, like I say, because the final fall is not for another 200 years. But they did weaken it greatly. and they took many things back. Like, let me show you a couple of things here now. Okay, you've all seen this picture in the movies. There it is. Here's the famous picture. You have Evelyn is somewhere in there. Okay, she may be taking the picture. This is St. Mark's Square, Venice. This is where all the soldiers came from the most of them came from Venice, Italy, in the Fourth Crusade. And if you can see up top here, right there, is the horse. If I go back, these 4 horses, let me go back, where was it? There. Okay, you got 4 horses here. These horses were attached to a chariot, a bronze chariot, that was actually Constantine the Great's chariot. And they took the horses back to Italy with them. And there's actually a museum over here in the church. And it has all relics from the Byzantine Empire, the emperor's crown. And it upset me that I had to pay to go into that museum to see these things because they really belong to our church. Also, those who are on the trip with me will recall we went and saw the crypt of St. Mark. Now, Constantine the Great had a church called the Holy Apostles in Constantinople, and he had all the relics of all the original apostles there. That's why it was called the Holy Apostles. He had the relics for all the apostles there. And they desecrated those graves and brought back the apostles to Venice, Italy. And that's how Pope John Paul II had the relics, the head and everything of St. Andrew. And in 1965, I believe it was somewhere around there, Pope John Paul gave the head to the church in Patras, and that's where it is today. So St. Andrew is there. So all these relics were brought out of Constantinople, out of the Church of the Holy Apostles, and were put here at St. Mark's Square. You all know this place. You see it in movies where all the pigeons are flying around. Okay, and when we were there, this is the day before the great flood that you saw on the news. As a matter of fact, I think you could start to see water accumulating here. The water was almost up to our knees for the next couple of days while we were there. We were there with this tour, and many people from our church walking around in knee-deep water. Fortunately, we went to St. Mark's Square Church the day before it started, and that's why we were able to get the pictures here and so forth. So let me tell you about the aftermath. The results of it. Following the devastation, the Byzantine Empire would be faced with continuing turmoil and weakening. Okay, what the 1204 did, it solidified the split between the 2 churches. So whether it was lawful or not at the time, it became permanent because of this event. I mean, regardless of Pope Innocent's innocence about it, still, it was his soldiers that he sent out that ended up in Constantinople instead of Jerusalem. And there was another battle of the between Nicaea and the Latin. They're called the Latin Wars, the Nicene and Latin Wars. And the forces of Nicaea, that's in Turkey. That's where the Nicene Creed was. The forces there were they won. They defeated the Latin warriors, and the church started to be reestablished. They put the Palaiologos family back into the head as a Byzantine Empire, and this is 1261, and that family, the Palaiologos, will be the last family of the Byzantine Empire. Okay, Constantine Palaiologos will be the last emperor. But he's of the Palaiologos family. The Fourth Crusade solidified the schism of 1014. Now here, the Crusaders under the leadership of Dondolo took the spoils of the devastation back to Venice along with most of the wealth of the empire. You see, there's that wealth thing again. So now they took the wealth from Constantinople and gave it to, or the Byzantine Empire, and took it to Venice. So the Venetians were excited. And this Dondolo, what he did, he put in his will there, or that when he died, he be buried, his tomb be put in Hagia Sophia Church, and it was. And I took this picture here. Here it is here. Enrico Dondolo. This is inside the Hagia Sophia Church. He's actually entombed there. He's up on the second floor looking down on everybody as the conqueror. And so even though it was reestablished, the Byzantine Empire in 1261, by 1261, it never was able to reestablish the strength that it had, and was never able to fully recover from this devastating attack of the Crusaders. So, you know, some of these stories on the Crusaders weren't all that good. You know, the Crusaders were led by the Templars. And they were active in this, the Knights Templars. Some of the artwork that I saw showed the Templars in their outfits, leading the way and everything. So the Templars were, you know, they tried to preserve the church, but they were also mercenaries, and you know, they made their living by doing this, and they accumulated a great wealth, and that helped sponsor this this battle and this terrible event that devastated our empire. So now what we're approaching is, I'm going to just start this a little bit. This is what you're looking at is Hagia Sophia. There are two mosques there. Actually, Hagia Sophia is a church. I still feel it's a church. And the one is over here. The other one. This is it. This is the blue, not the blue mosque. This is the big mosque for the Muslims. And the way when you see pictures, you tell the difference. Hagia Sophia has 4 of the towers, the minarets. The mosque has only 2 in front of it. Okay. So we're in a very weak period now with the government. Nobody wants to be the emperor, because every emperor that's going in is being assassinated, is being killed. So it's not a good time for you know, the Byzantine Empire. I'm going to go over some things here about Constantinople. See, the walls of Constantinople are the key. This side is called the Theodosian walls. That's Theodosius was the emperor at the time when they built these. These are the magnificent ones, and I'll show you a picture of it. All these are. If you go there today, people have actually built homes in you know, as part of the walls. It's amazing. They're actually living in the walls. They made homes for themselves out of them. They were huge, these walls. They surrounded the entire thing. The only weakness of the walls was on this side. This is called the Golden Horn. It's because when the sun sets on the west here, okay, it lights it up gold-like. Now, what they did here, they actually had a chain go from here across to it's called the Tower of Galatia it should be, Galata, and they wrapped it around the tower, and the chain prevented any ships from coming in here. So when they built the walls here, they didn't build them as strongly as they did here, or even on this side. Usually the walls on the seaside are, like I say, are not that strong. And you can see the reason Constantine moved it here is because it's surrounded by water, easy to defend. Because the Greeks had something that no one else in history had. It was called Greek fire. And if you Google it, you're not going to get an answer to what it is. To this day, they're not sure what the Greek fire was, but it was fire that they would throw down from the walls, and the water could not put it out. Actually, water would almost feed it, and it would just stay, stay there, and they just defeat every navy that came in there. So they all they had to do was put a chain across here, and they actually did put a chain there, prevented ships from coming in here. So the walls were, this area was not protected well. Our patriarchate today is located right in this area right here. Okay, we're very close to the Golden Horn. But the next battle now for Constantinople is going to be over here. This is the main place for the battle, so we're going to be talking about. And for those who attended Dino Kakinas' presentation, very good presentation on the fall of Constantinople. Mine is going to go into a pictorial. It will be a little more visual, and there are several things that I felt he didn't cover that I'm going to cover. And I promise you'll find it extremely interesting. Okay, so please, hang in there one more time. I know most of you are not people who want to go to a movie and see battles and everything. But this is part of our history. And, things have happened to our church today because of these events. Okay, we're still not solidified with the Catholic Church. Right? We're still split. And then there's a lot of other things that happened here that we'll go over as we go along. Here's a call picture. No, that's not the chain. There's an amazing way the Turks, you're going to see next week, they could, I'll tell you now, they could not breach the walls. No matter what they did, they couldn't do it. And they're about ready to give up. And then the leader, his name is Mehmet, came up with a brilliant idea. Here, it does say chain here. Okay, there it is right there. Came up with a brilliant idea that is still studied in military schools. But I'm going to save that for next week because I don't want to give everything away here. Okay, so does anybody have any questions I could answer? You could turn on your mics. Okay. Then I'll just keep going here. So I got a little more time.
Hey, Jerry, I got a question. Chris.
Yeah, go ahead. Hey, Chris, just go ahead. You done? How was your dinner?
It was great. It was wonderful. I had ribs. It was glorious. I wish I could have shared it with
Yeah, okay, great.
you. During this period, who was the main, and I know you've probably covered it, but go back and reiterate for me, who was the main ruler that really sought the separation between the two places, between Italy and...
All right. When the excommunication actually happened, it was Michael Cerullius.
Okay. So it wasn't Marcus, it was Michael.
Michael Cerullius.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you checking it up on your iPad there?
No, I had that confused. I thought it was Marcus, but it was Michael. Okay.
Yeah, Michael.
I'm a history major, so I have to keep it in line there for myself.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
The picture here of the walls here, they're restored. They keep in mind, we're talking these walls that we're looking at were built in the 3rd and 5th century. Okay. I laugh when I hear that Tepper, the athletic guy, the owner of the Eagles, the Panthers, wants a new stadium because the new stadium that they just built since I've been here, is no good anymore. And here they build walls and the church, Hagia Sophia, from the 5th century, and walls going back to the 3rd century. And look at them. Now, if you look at the bottom, you'll see what I'm talking about, why it was never defeated. There's 3 sets of walls. 1, 2, 3. Here's the first one. Actually, the first one's out here. And there was a moat here This is this part here, right here. And then you've got this wall, which you see there, right there. So they put their archers in here in between these areas, and they would just shoot everybody who would come up. Or, and then these guys thought they were smart, so they put ladders up here to try to climb up. And all they did when they got close enough, they pushed the ladders over and just knock them over. And then they had soldiers up here on this level shooting in the towers over here. It was an incredible. I mean, this is what went all the way along the outside border. There was no way that they could, with all their development of towers and everything to fight it, they couldn't do it. What they would do, one of the things they did, and I think I have a picture of it. Let me see here. Okay. This is a picture of, I'm on the Golden Horn here, taking this picture. And I got the churches backwards. I got them mixed up between that other one, mosque that I was telling you about. So this is reversed. And I think that's Hagia Sophia, and that's the mosque, the Muslim mosque there. All right, this is the tower there that I was telling you about, the Tower of Galata. This is where the chain was wrapped around, okay, to prevent people from crossing into the, getting into the Golden Horn and attacking from this side, okay. And again, it's just pictures that I took on the, in the golden era of that, this area here, right here, this whole area, and this is the other side, all of this were rich Greek merchants. They had like huge homes, beautiful homes. They were the population of Greece at the before the battle. Trying to think now for my memory, I think it was 2 million. 2 million Greeks were there. Constantinople then would grow to 10 million, and through the years, the Greek population was eliminated. There are many books on that if you want to read, study on it. All right, I want to talk to you about this place since we just finished going through it. This is the Vlahirna. This is the walls that I showed you. This is the other side of the walls. Okay, that's the section. And it's here that I showed you this. I went over this when we talked during Holy Week, and I was doing we were doing during Lent about the icon that the church was being attacked. Constantinople was being attacked by a group of A.R.Es, and when the patriarch heard about it, he took an icon that looks like this. It's not. This is not the exact one, because the exact one is like this one. Is in Mount Athos, but they took the icon and walked all around the walls that I showed you. You know, the picture of the map I showed you. They walked all around it and did a blessing. And this was in 804, I believe it was, 604. And the A.R.Es did attack on the side that I showed you the walls of, the other side of these walls, on the exact opposite side. And as they were fighting, they all of a sudden stopped charging. They turned around and started to leave. And so some of our soldiers, we had 7,000 soldiers there. They had 100,000 soldiers. They had a navy too. And the navy came in the waterway that I showed you. They didn't get into the Golden Horn, but they came up through the Bosphorus there. And they were doused with Greek fire. So they wiped out the navy of the A.R.Es. And then they had the land attack from the other side. And for some reason, they stopped charging. They turned around and started fleeing. So some of the 7,000 soldiers that we had for the Byzantine Empire went out and captured some of the soldiers that were retreating and questioned them. Why did they leave? And they said, well, didn't you see the woman coming out of the sky with the flaming sword? So it was the intervention of the Mother of God that came in. And on the top of these towers of the one main tower of Hagia Sophia, I'm sorry, of the walls of Constantinople, it says on there, this city is protected by the virtue of the Mother of God, Theotokos. And it's written there in Greek. It's when you see it, it's kind of heartbreaking. And so afterwards, they gathered in the church there. Okay, right there. And on that site now is this building. Did I skip it? Yeah. Is this building? This is where that church was. Okay. We're going in here. Yeah, there's Evelyn, I think, right there. We're going in to see this. And this is where they first sung the Tine per Marco. And that's why I'm showing you this. So you see, that's why I'm saying these events, we still celebrate these events today. The Tine per Marco was first sung at this spot. And I can't tell you the chills that we had when we went in there. We all started singing. The bishop led us to singing the Tine per Marco. At the very site it was first sung. As a matter of fact, I'll show you the site. There it is. There's the church. It was right there. We all started singing it. And they've got Agiasmo water over here too, holy water. It's a fascinating place. All right, my time is about up, and I've taken you into giving you just a precursor of what we're going to be talking about next week.